it's Rashida coming at you live on Facebook today to talk to you about expat life in Mexico. Same thing we've been talking about in videos for the past few weeks, but today I wanted to hone in on one particular topic, and that was crime in Mexico, because crime in Mexico is the thing that keeps coming up over and over again in comments here, in my Instagram DMs. Everyone wants to know if Mexico City is safe. So I looked up some stats so we could have some real solid meat around this conversation instead of just sort of guessing at how safe the city is. So I looked up the cities by murder rate, so that's murder rate per capita, and the latest data I got was 2017. So of the top 50 cities in the world, so I guess I'm thinking that's the largest cities. Actually, it's probably the cities with the highest per capita murder rate. One of the two. Either way, Mexico City is not on that list at all. So it's not one of the top 50 cities by murder rate, which you might think, well, hey, there's a lot of cities, so that doesn't really mean that much. But the US has 3 cities on that list, and that's Baltimore, New Orleans, and Detroit. So if you can vacation in New Orleans, go to Detroit, go to Baltimore, you shouldn't be worried about me living in Mexico City. I say it over and over again, I feel really safe here. I've never had a problem here, except the time someone tried to rob me, but it was a really, really poor attempt, so it was more funny than anything. Now there is crime here. I'm not gonna pretend like there isn't. There's crime in every major city. I don't think some people understand how large the city is. It's ginormous. So we're talking about a lot of people and a lot of things going on. But I find that a lot of Americans overblow the situation. You know, the other day someone asked me if, they said they wouldn't have thought it was safe to live here because of all the narco traffickers. And I had to laugh because, like, narco traffickers really tells me where you're getting this information from. You're getting this information from TV, because you watch Narcos, I guess. Or you're getting it from movies and the US media, which we all know is unbelievably unreliable. So no, I'm not coming in contact with narco traffickers. I suppose if I did, Mexico City would probably be less safe for me if I lived a lifestyle that involved me getting into contact with drug dealers, but I think that's safe to say for any city you live in. So not a problem. But I did want to touch on other crimes besides murder in Mexico City. So for the crime index overall, I think this is total crime in a city, the Mexico City is on that list, and it is ranked of the top 50. It's number 26 of overall crimes. But ahead of Mexico City on that list are Memphis coming in at 13, Detroit at 17, Baltimore at 19, San Juan, Puerto Rico at 24, and closely followed in Mexico City is St. Louis at 28, and New Orleans coming in at 37. Also in the top 50 are Oakland, Cleveland, Chicago, and Atlanta. So, crime everywhere. I'm sure you've been to one of those cities before and you felt reasonably safe, so you can understand why I feel safe in Mexico City as well. One thing I do want to touch on again is that I think a lot of what people think of when they hear Mexico City is just Mexico in general. I think it's because the name Mexico, the word Mexico, is in the longer title Mexico City, because I don't know that Americans generally hear about crime in Mexico City, but they always assume there's crime in Mexico City. I think you hear about crime in more different Mexican cities, but the word Mexico comes up, and so it sort of all gets convoluted. Now, going back to the murder rate, Mexico does have a number of cities on that list of the top 50. Once again, Mexico City is not one of them, but Mexico has 12 cities in the top 50. It's a lot. That's a lot of cities in the top 50. The US has 4 cities in the top 50, and I think Brazil is the number 1 on that list. Let me double check. Yeah, Brazil has 17 cities in the top 50. So between Mexico and Brazil, they're really hitting all the, that's the top 29 of 50 cities. But those cities aren't Mexico City. So nothing to worry about here. I mean, there's always something to worry about. But as far as safety concerns, as far as, possible death situation kind of thing, it's safer than Baltimore, safer than Detroit. So nothing to worry about here. Some people popped on. Let me see who this is. Hey Calvin. Hey Los. How you guys doing? I'm gonna hop off now unless anyone has any questions. I just want to come here and say that there are a lot of things to worry about when you travel. Safety is always an issue, but I think some people underestimate how unsafe the U.S. is, particularly for people of color, as opposed to the rest of the world. So I'm not saying that the U.S. isn't safe to live in. I'm just saying that it's not this utopia that is, as you already know, that is perfectly safe, and the rest of the world is this crazy, savage place that you can't travel to. Every city has its trade-off. Some cities are safer than others. A few U.S. cities are significantly less safe than Mexico City. So hopefully this gives you enough information to understand that I am fine here and that you can visit here and everything is okay, and that it's a really, really good city for a number of reasons. And there are no narco traffickers hanging out on my corner. There are hungry people looking for tacos. So that's about it for me this time. Let me see who else has popped in. Yes, Lo said she's always safer out of the country. She always feels safer out of the country. And I agree. Typically, especially my last year of traveling full time, I don't think there's a city that I have felt less safe in than I do generally in U.S. cities. People typically leave you alone as a tourist. So, unless you're doing business with narco traffickers, which my recommendation is don't do it. So, until next time, that's all I got, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. If you want to come to Mexico City, come visit me. I'll see you. Bye.